Hello folks, I'm going to start this video with a bit of a hot take that I'm sure will make some of you see red. Battle for Azeroth was the expansion when the open world's gameplay peaked. I can just see the comments down below. Now, just to clarify, I am not saying that makes Battle for Azeroth the best or even a good expansion overall. I most definitely was not a fan of Island Expeditions or Warfronts, and while the gameplay of Horrific Visions wasn't so bad, the way that the 8.3 gameplay loop forced us to play the game the exact way the developers wanted us to, or else they'd bring out the fun police, wasn't great either. But when it came to the open world, Battle for Azeroth for the most part continued the very successful Legion formula of large numbers of world quests and the emissary system, and they combined it with a noticeable improvement in rewards for open world players. For those of you who don't recall, the daily emissary quest has a chance of offering gear which scaled with their item level all the way up to normal raid gear, and while the Warfronts weren't exactly peak content, they did reward a guaranteed heroic raid piece every 2.5 to 3 weeks for about 20 minutes of not particularly difficult content. Now, it's okay to argue the toss if open world players should be ending up with the same item level of gear as a heroic raider, but that system did solve one very long-term issue for open world only players, which is that if you're one of those players, you'd get showered with new gear at the start of an expansion or a major patch for a couple of weeks, after which you'd never see an upgrade again. That was until the next big content bump, which pretty much meant that if you were not a collector or a completionist, the open world felt kinda barren, especially pre-Legion, where you'd cap reputations in maybe 3 weeks at most. In Battle for Azeroth, for many open world players, that slow but steady trickle of really good gear combined with Paragon chests which drop between 3,500 and 5,000 gold a piece, for the first time ever it actually felt like it was worth staying the course for a full season, even if you did not raid or PvP. Roll forward to today, and in the War Within, it does feel like at least those rewards are back to where they were in BFA. Champion gear is accessible via the Flames Radiance among other sources, and Delves can, like Warfronts, enable solo players to stretch beyond to heroic level gear. And even now towards the end of the season, for the first time ever, via the crafting system, players can start dipping their feet into mythic levels of gear. I've really been enjoying Delves in this expansion, and overall this is an okay expansion, but whenever I do a loop of the max level open world content, one of my favourite parts of the game, I get a very similar feeling to what I got in Shadowlands, especially at the start of that expansion, which is that the open world content just isn't as good as it was in the last expansion. So in this video, I want to take a dive into why I feel like that, and also take a look at what changes I think the development team could make to get the max level open world gameplay part of the game back on track. One of the greatest strengths of the Legion in Battle for Azeroth world quest system for me was the way that there always seemed like there was something new to do. Those world quests would reset every 6 hours, which meant that even if you cleared the map, there's always be more popping up. Contrast that with the War Within, where 3 of the main expansion zones only get one, yes, that's right, one new world quest every day. And Ashkahet gets 4 every 3 days, which means that you can very easily clear the map in less than 15 minutes. Now, of course, world quests are not the only open world content. We also do have a bunch of events. However, many of those events are for the most part designed to be a weekly thing to do, especially the Theatre Troupe and Awakening the Machine, which only offers meaningful rewards from a weekly quest. It is true that the new Flames Radiance event is designed to be more repeatable, thanks to that renown track, but even that's only up and doable once an hour, meaning that you either need to find something else to do for 45 minutes out of every hour, or spend a hell of a lot of time waiting around. Ashkahet does have the pack system, with a bunch of rumours and treasure encounters, which do genuinely innovate in how the quests are delivered, but which unfortunately have basically pointless rewards. They don't even offer reputation that you could farm for a Paragon chest. Undermine is a very similar picture. There we get one new world quest every 2 days, plus a bundle more twice a week. And of course, there's the shipping and handling system. The shipping and handling system is of course genuinely repeatable, and like the pack system, does offer an innovative new wrapper around repeatable quests. But like the packs, once you get the mount from it, the rewards are very uninteresting, and yet again we get no reputation. That latter is a big issue here, because farming reputation for the cartels is a massive grind, and getting rep from shipping and handling could have made it a very popular option. Undermine does of course also have rares, quite a lot of rares in fact, and they do award currencies for collections such as the dreaded miscellaneous mechanica, but I've personally never been a big fan of rares. In modern World of Warcraft, with sharding managing player populations, rares rarely live very long at all, meaning that the chances of you just coming across one, which can be exciting if the rare is truly rare, without a rare scanner add-on is close to nil. And if you do want something from a rare, that means you end up having to camp them. In my personal opinion, camping rares just isn't a healthy form of gameplay. Anytime you need to put Netflix on or watch YouTube in order to support your gameplay, rather than having it as a kind of podcast in the background, you're basically just in a forced AFK. Now this doesn't mean World of Warcraft's open world is bad. I actually do still get a lot of enjoyment from playing it, but at the same time it does to me feel like it has been regressing in quality ever since Battle for Azeroth. And part of the reason for that is an issue that I think was first introduced with Shadowlands' Zereth Mortis. Zereth Mortis' world and daily quest design had a lot of individual innovation, with brand new mechanics like that quest where you had to use portals to create your own fishing pools, or the one where you rode a giant rampaging bird around the roadways. But those and the other quests felt like they tended to come up every other day, and that was despite only getting 3 new quests every day. That created an overall impression that the pool of world quests from which the zone could draw was extremely shallow. And while the innovation in the quest was fun at first, it kinda started to pall after a week or so. And in many ways, that seems to also be the story of both Dragonflight and The War Within's open world content. Which is to say that what is there is mostly very good. There is the odd dud like Awakening the Machine now and again, but that's very much the minority. And it's great to see the continued innovation with packs and shipping and handling. But in my view, all of these systems all lack depth. And I'm specifically talking about the number of quests that the games can draw upon and present to us. Now, it is true that even in BFA and Legion, the same quests did repeat after a few days, but the overall volume of quests meant that it really didn't feel like that. When you have upwards of a dozen quests in a zone, you can start to mix and match what's up at any given time, meaning that even if you do start to get the same quests, they combine with each other in very different ways. This was also something that was demonstrated by Time Rifts and Dragonflight, where a deep pool of different activities combined with those 6 different themes and having several of them up at the same time always tended to make the whole thing feel different every time. And that made the content highly repeatable. Now just contrast that with Flames Radiance, which even though it shares much of the same design goals, always ends up feeling like they are just getting the same few activities, which you struggle to contribute to due to the sheer number of players that are competing with you. And this, I think, gives us a major clue to how I would like to see the open world's design change. Currently, there is without a doubt a ton of really good ideas and innovation going into the War Within's open world design, but most of that innovation is happening at a very small scale. That is, in individual quests and activity. Having innovation at that level is very important. But in my opinion, it does not seem to be translating into the bigger picture design of the game's zones. In recent expansions, the mid-expansion pack zones all share a common design, which in my opinion is very much stuck in a rut, with an over-reliance on Timeless Isle style rares, a now 13-year-old format, and weekly wrapper quests, which basically just boil down to having a quest telling you to go and do 5 quests. Those weekly wrapper quests, in my opinion, have zero gameplay value and end up just feeling like pointless chores to do. Now, those type of wrapper quests do have some value when they're used as one-off introductions to new gameplay opportunities in new patches or expansions, or as a reminder of an irregular event. For example, the ones that you get for time walking quests or the weekly rotating events. But when that same quest is coming up every week, they very rapidly lose all of their value to players. Now, all of this raises an obvious question. What do I think the World of Warcraft team should be doing to try and revitalize the open world's content? Well, first and foremost, I would like to see that innovation that I've been speaking about in those individual quests be harnessed and applied to the bigger picture design of the open world. And I don't mean another open world event by that. What I would like to see is that innovation being applied to finding an alternative to those weekly chore quests, with a focus on recapturing what the Legion and BFA emissary system did so well. Unlike those modern weekly quests which seem to just be there to try and get us to engage with the content at all, the old emissary system instead was trying to solve a very different problem, which was to prevent the very large numbers of quests on the map from becoming overwhelming by essentially saying to us, hey, I know there's 24 quests out there, but really, if you want, all you need to do is 4 of them. And guess what? Now you get to choose which you do. Currently, while there certainly is plenty to do in Reset Day, if you play the game more than once or twice a week, and I suspect most people do, then for the rest of the week, if you want to engage with the open world, there's really so little to do that you don't actually get any choice over what you do. You just end up having to do what's there. More than anything else, I would like to see us return to that Legion or BFA vibe, where there was always so much new stuff to do that we really didn't need to do all of it. Having to decide what to do provides us with agency, and in my view that greatly expands the long-term replayability of content. The other big change that I would like to see is a much reduced reliance on rares. The Timeless Isle format of rares and treasures was a big success back in Mists of Pandaria, and there have been some great follow-up examples such as Mechagon. But after 13 years, that format having been used in 7 expansions, in my view, it's a format that's starting to feel more than a little bit stale. And that leads me to the one big ask for the World of Warcraft design team, which would be to set themselves a goal of designing an entire patch zone with the scale of Undermine, but without a single rare. Not even a world boss, another format that in my opinion could do with a major refresh. Now, to be clear, I am not saying that we should never see rares again, but I do think that completely removing some of the existing formula for a World of Warcraft patch zone, even just temporarily, could be a major and very effective forcing function to drive a big refresh of that formula. And where better to do that than in Midnight, an expansion which is almost certainly going to see us go back and revisit refreshed and updated versions of some older expansion zones. One of the structural weaknesses of World of Warcraft, in my view, is the way that the developers, ever since Burning Crusade, have tended to abandon the older zones and funnel us into the shiny new content. New zones, of course, are a big selling point for expansions and patches, for sure, but it is something that also serves to make the World of Warcraft feel a lot smaller than it really is. The World of Warcraft is massive, but outside of those holiday events like the Lunar Festival or Midsummer, there's really rarely much reason to visit most of it. I mean, when was the last time that you visited Searing Gorge, the Swamp of Sorrows, or Southern Barrens outside of leveling? And that leads to my other big ask of the team. Let's try and make a lot more use of the old world beyond just dropping one new quest line every 2 to 3 expansions. It takes just 5 minutes to dragon ride from the Trip of Stranglethorn all the way to the entrance of the Ghostlands, which means that distance really isn't the barrier it used to be when it comes to getting players to engage with open world content. Anyways, that's my rant on the current state of World of Warcraft's open world content design. But what about all of you? Do you want to see more things to do which reset more quickly, or would you prefer to be able to just turn up once or twice a week and clear the map in an hour? Let me know in the comments down below along with what you would like to see change in open world content. content. If you found this update helpful, entertaining, and even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me make more of these videos along with my other content, then do hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. And if you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me in social media. My link's in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.